Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Superhero Roundup live from not Comic-Con. No. Everyone else is at Comic-Con, but we are here, and we're going to break down all of the latest news that's just been pouring out of San Diego. I am Matt Lieberman, and joining me, of course, Mr. DJ Wooldridge is here. Good to see you, sir. And we have a very special guest today. He is the host of several after shows, recap shows on AfterBuzz TV, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter, Mr. Zach Wilson.
Hey guys, thanks for so much for having me in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So, what are some of the other shows that you do over at AfterBuzz?
Comic book shows. I also did Daredevil.
You also did Daredevil.
If you're still making your way through the Netflix series, you can join us on that.
Sweet.
I'm doing The Strain with
yes,
you
with
later
me
this year.
later this.
Also, Dominion and the new show Killjoys I'm doing this summer.
Oh,
Which
sweet.
was a great title.
Yes, it is a really great title.
I don't know if the show's any good. Title, solid.
Yeah. No, we're starting The Strain, I think, on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our first episode.
Comes back soon.
But, so we're going to talk about all the news coming out of Comic-Con. We're going to talk about Jeff Johns co-writing Batman. We're going to talk about Marissa Tomei as Aunt May.
Yes.
Comments made by Joe Quesada about the new Spider-Man. We're going to talk about all the details from the Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel. But first, Sam Basher, our dear friend, put out a video this week on SourceFedNERD that if you haven't seen it, you should totally watch it. It is all about Iron Fist and the struggles that Marvel has been having figuring out what kind of story to tell with this show. Now, if you aren't aware, when they greenlit all these Netflix shows, they greenlit 5 shows, which were Daredevil, a.k.a. Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, all leading up to The Defenders, which will feature all 4 heroes. But Iron Fist, his roots, his powers, his origin, and a lot of his, potential villains are all mystical in origin, and we haven't quite gone there yet. We were able to explain away gods in the first Thor by saying they're aliens, essentially, but you can't quite do that with just straight out magic. Yeah. So what should they do?
Have you guys heard the rumors like with Doctor Strange that they're going to try and explain that scientifically too?
I haven't heard that, but that's
the purpose.
Sad.
I haven't heard that at all. I don't know if that sounds weird to me because they are calling it Phase 3 cosmic. So that sort of implies.
But does Strange really fall under cosmic? He could.
Depending on how you define the word.
I would count him as cosmic.
He could be cosmic. I feel like DC or Marvel would do well to at this point they have enough clout. They can embrace weirder aspects of their of their comic book universe.
I agree.
Once you start putting the Infinity Stones in play, like you're already doing some out there stuff.
Yeah, don't try and treat it like, this is all based on science. Like, no, it's not. I mean, it's magic.
This isn't Iron Man. It's Doctor Strange. There's spells and you can explain it sort of just in that way that like magic is just another form of science, like Thor did.
But that would be lame, I think.
Well, but just the way that Thor explains it, where it's not the same, but it still has a base functionality that operates according to certain rules, just like science does. It's just a different set of rules.
I agree with that.
Here's my pitch, and this may not be possible because maybe they've already figured out what they want to do with the Luke Cage show. Yeah. But since Luke Cage and Iron Fist in the comics are heroes for hire,
they should have just made a Heroes for Hire series. But continue on with the pitch.
That's what I'm getting to. Is you just establish Iron Fist as just a character who enters the universe during the Luke Cage show. They fight some battles together on the streets of New York. Yeah. We don't go into... He can explain the roots of his powers, but we don't have to get into it. And then once we do the actual Iron Fist show, my favorite Iron Fist run was about a tournament of the greatest fighters.
Ed Brubaker, Mac Fraction?
Yes, from across the realms. Just do that. If you're going to make these Netflix shows like a little mini series each season, it's like a little mini movie that's meant to be like binge watched or something like that, then do something that's a little further removed that ultimately has greater implications for what will happen in New York once it's done.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think going to that run makes a lot of sense. And I would imagine why they chose Iron Fist to begin with, because it seems like Kevin Feige, whoever's making these decisions on what characters to do, is very much a fan of recent arcs. Winter Soldier, Civil War, all that jazz. And also hire Kevin Tantron to be the showrunner, because obviously in the action scenes and S.H.I.E.L.D., like that guy can...
He can bring the pain.
Yeah, and he was doing that Mortal Kombat series on Machinima.
So he obviously has a great deal of respect for martial arts.
Yeah, I think he's the guy. Like, if they haven't called him to do that show, they're crazy.
They're crazy.
I don't think there should be as much of a concern about Iron Fist, like, and the magic stuff behind him. It's a sort of a slow build if you look at the series they're doing for Netflix. Daredevil is very grounded. Like, yes, you have a little bit of magic with the radioactiveness giving him his abilities, but it's almost not there.
Well, then also the one episode with Stick in the hand, which I think they should have done more than just one episode.
But then you go to Jessica Jones, who, like, has powers, but it's not at all what her story is about.
Yes.
It's about everything around those powers.
Yeah.
Then Luke Cage is more about the powers, but his powers are still grounded.
Yeah.
And then you jump into this guy has crazy powers with Iron Fist. So it's a slow build, and I think by the time we get there, it'll be post Doctor Strange, so you will already have that set up.
Yeah.
And I think people, in theory, if they put it
No, you're right.
Doctor Strange have a cameo.
In
Iron Fist.
In Iron Fist?
Yeah, why the fuck not?
Hey, Benedict Cumberbatch is still on TV.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
why not?
Completely out of left field.
You're absolutely right. But that's a really important point, Zach, is that we're already going to have established, however we're going to establish magic in this universe, we will have already done it. So then let's just branch off of that. Okay, we need to move on because we have so much news to talk about.
Yeah.
But I neglected to mention the question of the day, which is, what news are you most excited about coming out of Comic-Con? Whether it's been announced or something that you think is yet to be announced, but you think is going to be announced, let us know on Twitter via the hashtag #SHRoundup or in the chat, and we will pull those tweets as we talk. But first, let's get into some news. Arrow Season 4. Neil McDonough cast as Damien Darhk.
Yes.
Awesome casting.
Yeah, great. He's great as villains. I know you're a big Justified fan.
Yes, I am.
And he had a run on that, correct?
He was a crazy villain on that show.
Despite his a minimal amount of screen time on Terriers. When I think of Neil McDonough as a villain, I think of the last episode of Terriers. He's also great in Captain America as a completely different, as fun-loving, not a villainous character at all.
Yeah, as Dum Dum
He's
Dugan.
one of very few people who recently have crossed the DC and Marvel battle line.
Yeah. How many other people have played roles in both universes?
Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, Ryan Reynolds. That might just
But
be
that's like the only other one I can think of.
No, there's one more that I'm not able to think of right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Wait, I'm sure it'll come to us at some point.
Yeah.
But it's definitely exciting. This is a dude who has such intense, crazy magnetism.
Yeah.
He's a really steely villain. And to have him contrasted with the kind of like campiness of John Barrowman as Malcolm Merlyn is very, very exciting.
That'll be interesting. Do you think the rivalry Damien Darhk was supposed to have had with the original Ra's al Ghul will translate to John Barrowman's Ra's al Ghul?
I think that's exactly why they are bringing him in at the same time as Malcolm is becoming the new Ra's. It is 100% going to be a big part of season 4.
So I've always figured that this show kind of had to have had like a 5-season arc in its brain. It's so successful, it'll probably continue past that. But the fact that he was 5 years on the island, we're doing the flashbacks, all that jazz. So do you think maybe this season will be more Oliver helping John Barrowman's newly appointed Ra's al Ghul, and then season 5 will be John Barrowman straight up, I'm the bad guy again? Because I kind of assumed that he was going to be a pain in the thorn in the side immediately, because Merlin's been a thorn in the side always.
It's definitely, I think that's it's definitely a possible approach. I could see that working, but I don't think that would not work for a full 22.
You know who the villain of season 5 should be? Batman.
You're right. We got some comments here in the chat of people who were both in the Marvel Universe and the DC Universe. Ben Affleck, for one, Daredevil, and Batman.
That's a big one. That's probably the biggest one.
Yes. Vanessa from Daredevil played Superman's mom in Man of Steel, according to AV Planes, one. And New Horus, Chris Evans, was not in both. He was in...
Fantastic Four,
yeah, they were both Marvel, buddy. Come on.
Interesting. But speaking of...
Oh, I was just going to say what I really like about this character picking for Arrow.
Oh, James Marsden. He was in Superman Returns, and he was Cyclops.
But by picking this character, Damien, he has such a little presence in the comics.
Yes.
There's so little established about him. I think that's great to give them something give the writer something fun to play with. They have more room to just go all out without people worrying about like, well, in issue 579.
Yeah, exactly. They probably chose that character based solely on the name. They saw that name in their list, like, yeah, this guy right there. Speaking of people that have crossed over with Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, earlier this week we got new images from set, including, I guess, his sidekick in the movie, which is it's the Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I always forget exactly what the name is.
Yeah, it's based on a song from a band whose name I cannot remember, and it was created. He was that character. She was created by Grant Morrison in New X-Men.
Yeah, Leslie Uggams was also just announced as Blind Al. Over the weekend, or not over the weekend. Sorry, today.
Just today. We're
like literally 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And also just these images. I'm not overly crazy about him. Like anything with him outside of the costume, I haven't been crazy about. Or this is the first thing out of the costume. But it's like the costume is the one thing I've liked.
Wait, we've seen him out of the costume?
Yeah.
Did not see that image.
There was an image where it's him. Holding a glass of what looks like green juice, talking to Morena Baccarin, and he is not scarred up in his face at all.
Maybe CGI later. Maybe
real pretty.
Is that just like a set photo? Maybe
it's possible.
Yeah.
No, it was a still from the movie.
Interesting.
It was.
You'll have to show me after. I did not see that.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead was a still, her in the yellow and black costume.
Yeah.
There was a still of T.J. Miller getting gripped by Gina Carano.
Okay.
And there's an image of who appears to be our villain. He just looks like an emo guy.
Yeah, it's just a guy in a hoodie in the rain.
In the rain.
Cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this movie. It's going to be the most ridiculous thing ever.
But that's the thing, is it has to be or it won't work.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that it won't be.
Well, I was nervous until they gave it the R rating, because it just means that they're willing to just give it a chance.
That's true, but it also could be that there's something in the script that they just couldn't get rid of that's so foul that it gives it an R rating.
But that's what I mean. Like, at first, the studio was still trying to keep the marketing as broad as possible. That's the name of the game with these superhero movies, is make as much money as possible. And if it's rated PG-13, then you get a bigger audience. Just more people can see it. But by going for the R, it's just the studio has faith for them to make a good movie that will make enough money that they don't have to worry about the preteen audience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what is giving them that faith.
Let's hope it's something good.
Yeah.
Superhero craze, man. And the fans, they've been clamoring for this for so long.
But again, I think it's one of those things, we've talked this to death, but I think Deadpool's one of those things that on paper seems appealing and is one of those that you don't realize how difficult it is to adapt. Mm-hmm. Until you get there. Like, no, again, I think Iron Fist as a character is a lot easier to crack. Like, if the reports are true and Marvel is freaking out about Iron Fist, it is based solely on the same reason that they don't want to do another Hulk movie, because it breaks out of their normal formula and they don't know what to do with that.
Sure.
That's stupid. What makes Deadpool work in the comics is more complex than I think people, like, it's not just like, oh, it's a superhero that makes jokes and breaks the fourth wall. Like, that could be very lame. Yeah.
It should be a live action violent cartoon. Looney Tunes if people actually die.
Yeah, I think what people don't realize is the things that make Deadpool cool could be very lame and have been very lame if the wrong people do them. Like, having a superhero break the fourth wall and make jokes sounds awful, unless those jokes are really good. Somebody says DJ has a buzzkill. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The thing that gave me, I guess, the moment that I had faith in the movie, because I wasn't sure for a while, but they did one promo where I think was it Mario Cantone was doing like news about it, and then Deadpool just walks up from behind him and smashes him over the back of the head with a computer or something. Yeah. I know I'm getting pieces of that wrong, but it was such a just like breaking the fourth wall, but in a violent, like ridiculous way that shouldn't work, but it's funny.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah. I reserve judgment until I see a trailer. Daredevil news. We had Elektra cast this week, and she looks awesome.
Yes, Elodie Young.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she's already proven to be a badass with a samurai sword with a katana.
Yeah, because she was in the last G.I. Joe movie.
G.I. Joe Retaliation.
And apparently she's been doing martial arts for like a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all the stills from the G.I. Joe movie have her in red.
Red. Like, it literally looks like she just had to have sent a picture of that to be like, hey, guys, you want to hire me for Elektra?
Yeah, her agent's just like, look at this costume. We don't even have to touch this up.
Yeah, exactly.
You just like rotoscope her out of that movie.
And she's good to go.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think I'm more excited for that casting than I was for Bernthal as Punisher, and I think Bernthal as Punisher is good casting.
I think that's good casting, but this is great casting. And the thing that I'm really excited about, because she's there, means we are getting more hand stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't shy away from that.
Yeah. Hopefully. Hopefully they'll cast. I'm looking forward to some more casting because, again, one of my complaints of last season of Daredevil is it became kind of bare as the season went on, and so I'm hoping we have more.
Because they spent all their money on the second episode.
Yeah. Which is funny because it all takes place in like one set for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm curious what this means though for Daredevil, because you've announced 2 other heroes around him. And does that mean that this is, and plus Jessica Jones is going to be established by this point? Is he going to become like the little, like a leader of this like grounded superhero community, like where they look at him as like the veteran?
I think he's the Iron Man of the Netflix thing, where it's kind of like he's not necessarily the leader, but he is the poster boy,
the glue.
He's the star.
Yeah.
He's the star, unless any of the other ones break out, and then they'll be the star.
Exactly. Because that's not something we've really talked about, the fact that like we've known for the Defenders it's going to be Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage, but there's no reason why the Punisher couldn't be a part of it. You know what I mean? There's no reason why Elektra couldn't be a part of it, although she'll probably be more antagonistic this first season.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know what? Who I'd like to see them introduce for Daredevil is She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters. Maybe pre-She-Hulk as another litigator for him to go against, because that'd be a great way to connect it to the movies. They need to do something with She-Hulk. That's all I'm saying. I just want She-Hulk. That's all I'm saying.
Straight out of my dreams.
Yeah.
Straight out of your dreams and into the trash. It's not happening. It's not happening, at the very least, for a long time. Speaking of Marvel casting, let's talk Tomei. Marissa Tomei as Aunt May in Spider-Man. Is she Bay or is she not Bay? And can May be Bay?
May should not be Bay. This is probably not the way this is intended, but I just feel like that's a slap in the face to Marissa Tomei. Hey, you're old and shitty. You want to be Aunt May? Marissa Tomei's too fucking hot to be Aunt May.
I don't think that's
I
true.
disagree. I keep seeing, like, people have been having that reaction, like, this is sexist and ageist. It's like, no. Peter Parker is, in this movie, like 15, right?
Yeah.
14, 15. She's, that makes her 35 years older than him?
Yeah.
So that means, like, if you having kids when you're around 35, of course that makes sense.
Be. It's that I feel like Aunt May has always been more of a grandmotherly figure. Or she could be a motherly figure, but like Marissa Tomei, she's hot.
She's hot, but she's also an incredible actress, a good screen presence, and it's saying something a little different about this movie. This isn't the same as the other 2 movies. We're trying to be as different as possible, and we're hoping that this Spider-Man, Tom Holland, will be this generation Spider-Man and next generation Spider-Man. They're making an investment in a guy who can play this character potentially for over a decade, maybe even 2 decades. They want an audience to grow up with him the same way that they grew up with the Harry Potter cast, which means that they need an Aunt May who is going to be viable for years.
Well, that's fair.
That's true.
If Marissa Tomei has proven anything, it's that she ages well.
If it takes 3 more years after the first one to come out with Spider-Man 2, then that makes her at that point 65 or 55.
55.
So and then another one 3 years, that's 58. So like,
and he's supposed to be in high school throughout all that.
Speaking of Spider-Man news, Joe Quesada was coming out saying the new Spider-Man suit will blow your mind.
It's the most marvelous Marvel suit of all Marvel.
Which I was trying to think about. I was telling you guys before, I was trying to think about, like, I rack in my brain, like, what could they do? Because we all know it's going to look like the Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man suit's not like the Batman suit where there's been been a bunch of them, but we know it's going to be the classic Spider-Man suit.
Does he mean it's going to blow our minds, like, in a bad way? Like,
I don't know.
Blow your mind how ridiculous this is.
The only way I think it would legitimately blow my mind is if it worked. Is if the guy put on the suit and he could climb walls and shoot webs and it was fully functional. That would blow my mind.
What if he's going to say it's going to blow our mind because we get Iron Spider?
That would blow my mind. I hate Iron Spider. Iron Spider is so stupid.
You're just full of venom today, DJ. Dare I say?
You know what?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is one of those costumes. Like for me, as a kid that grew up in the 90s, I liked the Ben Reilly Spider-Man costume.
Sure.
Should it be the costume? No. It should be it's gonna be the Spider-Man. What could they possibly do other than the Spider-Man costume?
Here's the only thing that would make me happier than just a normal Spider-Man costume, which it will be. Yeah. I just don't want any weird texturing where we don't need it. I think that's what's going to blow our minds, is that the blue sections of the suit won't have a weird texture to them, and they'll be smooth like in the comics.
Yeah, but I don't. They used to do that stuff back in the day, and I don't think it plays anymore.
Yeah,
like the old Christopher Reeve Superman costume, or like the live action Spider-Man TV show from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. What if they answer? I've always had a question about Spider-Man's powers because he's able to climb walls and everything because he has his hands are supposed to be sticky like a spider.
Yes,
but he's wearing clothing over his hands. So how does
it's through that?
It's through them. They're porous.
They answer it in the first. In the first Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
But so what blows our mind about it is that it's not a suit at all. It's just body paint.
There you go.
Yeah, body paint on a young boy.
But the thing that also explains something I've always wondered is, where does he get the suit? How is he able to afford that costume to create that costume?
He wins wrestling
matches. Yeah, apparently.
Hold on, go back up. There was a great comment. More. There. Aphrodite O says, plot twist, they made the Spider-Ham costume.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. Oh my God. I saw an amazing Spider-Gwen toy at Comic-Con. I saw a photo of an awesome looking Spider-Gwen toy. Yeah. It looks great.
I'm still holding out hope for an Emma Stone movie and like some magical alternate.
That's another. I kind of wonder, why didn't we just keep the kid from the crappy Amazing Spider-Man movies and just say, because just keep going with it.
Because they want everyone to forget that those movies ever happened, DJ. Yeah. And also, Marvel needs to control every aspect of everything Marvel, and they didn't cast Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
They want to cast their own person, put their own people in, and have it be their creation.
Yeah, but also, Emma Stone Spider-Gwen spinoff movie would be great.
It would be great. It also just simplifies the whole thing. Like, you don't have to worry about, like, where was Peter Parker during the invasion? Why weren't the Avengers there when the Lizard was attacking everybody?
No, because that wasn't happening in the same universe. It only makes it more complicated.
That's what he's saying. Why just start from scratch?
That's why keep Andrew Garfield around. Right. Get rid of him so that you can start over with a clean slate.
You mean we might start having the conversation we have about just comic books in general? And the answer is, it's stories. Get over it.
Yeah.
Also,
move on.
We had a confirmation from Joe Quesada that the Spider-Man in the film will be using handmade web shooters. They will not be organic.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's nice. A little bit of makes us happy, I guess.
Weirdly, I actually I'm a big Spider-Man fan, a big comic book fan. It never bothered the natural webs. Never bothered me. It's different, but it
bothered me.
Whatever.
I was bothered by it when I was a kid and I was first reading about the Spider-Man movie, and then I saw that movie, and I cannot think of a movie before Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie that I fell in love with as hard as I fell in with that movie. Like that movie for me was a watershed moment of like, I love this movie. I want to be Peter Parker. I feel like I am Peter Parker, except with all the cool stuff. Mm-hmm. I love that movie, and I still love that movie to this day.
It actually made more sense to me, like when I first saw it. Because otherwise, where's he getting all of this web fluid?
He's
making it. But how does he afford it?
No money.
And then also, how lucky was it that a super genius got bit by that spider,
right?
And not just some random kid.
Well, we watched Amazing Spider-Man 2. His parents specifically selected him to get bitten at random by the spider.
Exactly. That makes sense.
Anyway,
let's talk DC a little bit more. So Les C at Ipcheon wrote to us on Twitter, and he said, I'm very excited about at Jeff Johns writing the new Batman movie.
Yes.
I've also heard good things about his co-writer. His co-writer, of course, being Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
I watched, for the very first time last night, I watched Good Will Hunting all the way through, and I so enjoyed it, although it is a little cheesy.
Brilliant movie.
The dude is very smart, and to bring on a comic book heavyweight like Jeff Johns is a very interesting choice that I would not have expected out of Warner's.
Yeah, I think I think it's more Ben Affleck because now he's won an Oscar, and so he's got because look at Batman v Superman, they brought in his co-writer
Chris Terrio
for Argo, which had to have been him. And I think one of the benefits we have with Ben Affleck is he's a fan.
Yeah.
Like he's buddies with Kevin Smith, like he's a hardcore fan, like he doesn't want it to be shitty. You know what I mean? I'm more excited about it because I'm a big Jeff Johns fan. I'd love to get him on a superhero roundup one day. We should see if we can swing that somehow. But I was kind of afraid. He was made DC's big liaison between the comics and the movies and the TV and stuff like that. And I was kind of afraid that had gotten poisoned a little bit because of Green Lantern. But Flash, he's one of the producers on Flash, and that's obviously been a huge success. So I'm glad that Ben Affleck was smart enough to bring him on. And one of my favorite takes on the Batman character is Jeff Johns' Batman Earth One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great casting. I mean, Ben Affleck's involvement in Batman v Superman is one of the reasons I still have hope for that movie. Yes. Because I think like even just having him around to be like, hey, Zack Snyder, what do you think of like this thing?
Yeah.
Just subtly like get him to move it in a better direction.
Yeah.
So I love that he's getting to direct it, that he's getting to co-write it. There is some concern that some people think that having somebody direct and star in a superhero movie might be too complicated.
You guys had a conversation about that.
We talked about this on this show a few weeks ago. It might have even been last week. And yeah, it's a big, complicated movie, and I'm very, very concerned that he's not going to be able to have the level of focus necessary to deliver a great performance when he's focusing on all this other stuff. He needs an incredible AD to make that possible.
And you also think about second unit directing and all that stuff.
Sure.
But also, would a Batman movie be necessarily any more complex? It doesn't necessarily need to be any more complex than
the town or Argo?
Yeah. Or Argo was a lot bigger than the town. Whenever I think of like, will Ben Affleck do a good Batman? It's like, the town's pretty solid.
Yeah. Here's the other thing is that in a superhero movie, a lot of the time that Batman is on screen, it's a stunt double or CGI, so he can absolutely take a step back and watch the monitors. Not all the time. And when it's Bruce Wayne, it's nothing different than working on Argo when he's just acting and then stepping behind the camera. Action sequences, he can play it back, watch it. They have to spend hours resetting any action thing, so he's got plenty of time to rewatch and tweak.
Yeah. Ben Affleck also co-wrote Gone Baby Gone, which is an incredible crime movie.
Yeah.
And I really hope that he takes that approach to Batman. We don't need yet another Batman versus flashy supervillain thing. I would love to see like a Batman versus Joker that was just gritty and focused and on the street and world's greatest detective solving a crime before people get killed.
That would be great. Batman Law and Order.
I kind of hope with Joker's inclusion in Suicide Squad that will not get him in the Batman movies anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see characters that we haven't seen tackled recently, like a good Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Somebody in the comments pointed out the Court of Owls. That would be cool. A new take on the Riddler might be cool.
The Riddler would be a great detective story because it's like you put a serial killer into the like classic like Zodiac killer where you have to track this guy down. He's not out there in bright green for you to find.
Yeah, we also have to think about, in the context of this DC universe, this Batman film is going to fall between Justice League Part 1 and Justice League Part 2.
But does not necessarily need to chronologically do that, because remember, Batman v Superman's been active for 15 years.
That's true.
It could be earlier, which would be a good excuse of like, why isn't Superman flying in to save Gotham? Because it's
before.
It's 10 years before Man of Steel.
See, I'm more interested in a version of it where it is informed by the fact that people now know that superheroes exist, not just Batman and not just Superman, but they've seen superheroes and they've seen things that are beyond our ken, and it drives crazy people to do ridiculous things because they just want to be a part of this big thing. Like, to me, that makes someone like Edward Nygma crazy, is that there's all these people out there who are doing incredible things, and he's so brilliant and no one notices him. He's going to make people notice him. I think that would be a very cool way to do it.
I think you want to keep any ties to the bigger universe for Batman. Any ties to like the bigger superpowered people to a minimum. Like mentions, like have it affect maybe their emotional stability. Like think like Iron Man 3, not to the specific plot point, but just the fact that like what he was going through emotionally was influenced by what happened in the Avengers. But other than that, he didn't go to any of the other powered people.
Except for that tag at the end, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. And also, you don't need to, because he's Batman.
Yeah.
Batman will make all the money on his own.
True. All right, we got another tweet here from Dr. Amazing at JCash10. Wesley Snipes possibly returning as Blade. Thoughts?
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah. So Wesley Snipes was doing an interview about his new show, The Player, which is coming out on NBC this fall, and he talked about meeting with Marvel, potentially about Blade. He said they talked about doing another Blade, and he thought it was a very productive conversation, trying to figure out how that would work, but that he also is open to potentially playing another character in the Marvel Universe. My take, like reading between the lines in his interview, is Marvel brought him in for something other than Blade.
Yeah.
And
he brought up Blade.
He brought up Blade. He wants to do Blade. They said, we don't think you should do Blade, but we want you for X other part. And I would love to see Wesley Snipes play someone else in the Marvel Universe. In Expendables 3, he was just as cool. He kicks just as much ass. He's older. He's wiser. He's been through some shit in his life, going to prison. I feel like he could really bring something special to the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was a conversation not about him starring in a new Blade movie or series or anything, but just to produce it as like somebody who knows Blade better
than really anyone.
Probably better than anyone. Having him on the creative team, even if he's not going to star, would be a useful tool.
Okay, let me ask you guys this. Would people lose their minds if in the tag for Doctor Strange or something like that, Wesley Snipes showed up as Blade?
I think people would lose their shit.
Okay.
Anyone who grew up with... There was a hot second where the Blade films were my brother's favorite movies.
Okay.
And I watched them a bunch. And none of them are perfect. And maybe... I can't even say any of them are great.
Yeah.
But they're fun, and he's the best part of all three. Mm-hmm. I would lose my shit if they were able to do Blade with a good writer and a great director.
Or maybe...
Well, hold on. Lose your shit like, no. Or like, yeah.
I would be
which
like,
one?
yeah. I'd be like, holy shit, Blade.
Okay.
What? So we're tying all those in? Because that's the thing. If we bring him back as Blade, that is establishing the first three Blade films as Marvel Universe canon. That's crazy.
And maybe that's what they're talking about, bringing Blade back for a cameo in Infinity War.
Hell, here's what I'm saying. Bring Blade back as another Netflix show. They
did try a show on FX a while ago. So,
or on Spike Network.
On Spike, that's right.
And it actually didn't suck. It was actually fun. The reason why they canceled it after one season is because even though it had a big audience, its audience was 65% female, and they're the network for guys. Not kidding.
Interesting.
How did Blade get 65% female?
Because the second lead on the show was an amazing female character, and she was basically the main character of the show, even more than Blade.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah. It got great numbers, and they canceled it because it was just the wrong kind of show for them.
Then put it on whatever the chick network is supposed to be.
There wasn't the kind of like transfer a show from one network to another that we have now.
Really, that doesn't even exist like people treat it like it does, because Hannibal was not getting picked up by another show. Constantine
that's just because of American Gods.
Yeah, that's another story. And this is not. If you got me on, I would talk about Hannibal for another hour. Anyway.
What else? So did we talk about the Agent Carter Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel that they just held?
Yeah, they just held that today.
Afternoon?
There wasn't a lot of news. I think the biggest reveal, correct me if you guys think I'm wrong, is that the Inhuman character that was just created for the new Inhuman series is going to be a part of.
And he looks scary as fuck.
Which he can't look like that in the show. There's no way they have the budget for it. Did you see Mr. Hyde last season? It's no way.
Well, they had the budget for Reyna. To
right, barely. But this is like a gigantic. Yeah. He looks like if Akuma from Street Fighter was able, all the energy that was in him was able to extend to the rest of his body. He looks like Hulk meets Akuma.
Well, if he's truly your villain for this season,
or like Darkheart meets Akuma,
it stands to reason that he would be a good place to spend your money.
Yeah,
and third season they're gonna get a budget boost. Mm-hmm. But they're gonna have so much more money that they need to spend on special effects just by nature of doing Secret Warriors,
right? Which they're already gonna be spending all that money on all these new characters.
Which, if they do some of the characters, Sam, we've talked about it before, and Sam did a 101 on some of those characters. If they did stuff like Phobos, that's just a kid whose eyes glow, right? Not a big deal. Hellfire, little bit more complicated. Occasionally, when he whips out the chain. but not too bad.
Yeah.
Stonewall would probably be impossible to really do because they only had Absorb Man for like an episode.
And he's like 30, so he couldn't really have an adult son.
Yeah.
He could have. I guess you could change it though. You could make him his brother.
And also, but he's supposed to be older anyway because he fought Matt Murdock's dad. In the ring. So
but he could have been like 20 when he fought.
But if he was 20 when Daredevil was 10, he's like 40. So maybe if he had a kid then he has a 20-year-old kid.
Oh.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah,
it's possible.
It's possible.
But again, budget-wise, he'd be difficult to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
He like grows.
He's like Absorbing Man that can also grow.
Right. They also established that for Agent Carter, it takes place 6 months after the events of the first season. Jarvis is already out in LA doing some kind of contract work. Things have happened since the first season. Some people aren't talking to other people. They teased that Agent Carter would have love interest this season since she has finally put away her feelings for Steve Rogers. And also, we are going to meet Jarvis's wife.
Yay!
Which is fun. Yeah. Nothing really much in terms of like plot or anything cool, but that's still fun.
We spent like half the season last year assuming that his wife was either non-existent or an android of some kind.
Yeah.
That's
because
funny.
Why is she? We just couldn't figure out why she was off screen for the entire season.
What if she's a character? What if she's somebody from the comics? What if it's a reveal?
Well, that seems like
cool.
It has to be. There has to be something at where there's no reason not to just show his wife if she's a throwaway character.
Yeah. They also mentioned on the panel, they mentioned that it takes place in LA in 1947, the same year as the infamous Black Dahlia murder.
Which could be very interesting. Although American Horror Story did tie it into that a little bit too in their first season. It just makes me think of like, is that too dark for Agent Carter?
Well, they said they're not going to be using any historical figures in the show. Like on the panel today, they said that. So I have to assume that they're not going to be using the Black Dahlia case, but maybe it will influence what they're talking about.
Sure.
Like a Black Dahlia, like a similar case. The big thing that I don't think they said it today, I think it was a couple weeks ago, but they didn't mention anything today, was that they're not going to be doing. They're not going to be really continuing the villains from season 1. Leviathan.
Even though they're bringing them back, they're bringing Dottie back.
Well, Dottie maybe, but like I was led to at least correct me if anyone in the chat or anywhere if I'm wrong, but like they said that they're not going to be talking about Leviathan. Leviathan is a massive part of Secret Warriors.
Yeah, it is
in the book. So I think that maybe Dottie will be around but separated. I think Leviathan's going to shift over into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like it's all connected.
That would make sense. That would make sense to lead into that. And especially we're probably going to get a few Agent Carter crossovers like we did season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah,
especially if Leviathan's involved. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there was a DC TV panel that was going just as the show started. And Mark Guggenheim, Jeff Loeb, not Jeff Loeb.
He's over
He's
at
at
Marvel.
Marvel.
Jeff Johns. Bunch of people.
Bunch of people were on it, and they talked about Flash. And one of my favorite things that Jeff Johns said was he was like, I'm not interested in doing Easter eggs anymore. That we've transcended that. The audience is ready and hungry and able to handle the things as they were meant to be in the comics.
Yeah.
He said, for example, Jay Garrick's helmet at the end of Flash season 1, not a throwaway, not an Easter egg. Yeah. We will meet Jay in season 2.
Which is so exciting. But I guess my question is, the helmet is very old school World War II Jay Garrick classic. But if you look at most of the other Arrow, Flash, and stuff like that, they're pulling a lot of their notes from the New 52 versions. Mm-hmm. So will this be an older, wizened World War II veteran Jay Garrick, or will this be a younger New 52 Earth 2 version of Jay Garrick?
I don't know.
I know which one I prefer.
I'm more curious about the first one. I'm more curious about the older Jay Garrick, somebody who can offer a different kind of speedster perspective.
Yes. Agreed. That's what I'd want to see.
I think it's always more interesting to have somebody who's a veteran of this, just like they're doing in Batman v Superman. It's like you have this grizzled old guy who's been doing this for years, and what is where do they butt heads with the younger version who's like, I know how to do this, old man. You don't even know how it is today.
Yeah.
There's gotta be. I know we've talked about it on the show before, and maybe season 2 is too early, but I want to do an episode where 90s TV Flash, the guy who plays his dad, crosses
John Wesley
over.
Shipp, yeah.
Yeah, John Wesley Shipp plays his 90s version of Barry Allen.
Yeah.
In the same show as new Barry Allen.
I feel like the closest you could get to that is, I know in the Spider-Verse crossover with Spider-Man, one of the versions of Spider-Man was Ben Parker. So I have something like that where it's he's not playing
Barry.
He's Barry Allen, but he's playing a version of the reality where Barry's dad becomes the Flash.
He's playing Henry Allen as the Flash, but I still want the suit to be the velvety, ridiculous
For some
suit.
reason, I guess because that was when I was just a kid and I loved the idea that I wanted to see how people would interpret different characters. Like, it bums me out to this day that like we never got to see George Reeves' Superman crossover with Adam West's Batman or something like that. You know what I mean? But like I love the old Flash suit. I know it's way too bulky.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but I love it, and I'd love to see it cross over with like Michael Keaton's Batman. Like, I wish that was a thing.
Folks in the chat are just crazy about wanting to see Cisco as Vibe. Gabriella Sotelo, Wilkins Delgado, a bunch of folks, and Music Lover 1386 just wants Caitlin Snow to pull a Willow from Buffy and just go evil for a season.
It looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the future or an alternate
reality, but with the options of alternate realities, that he could run into that version of Caitlin, which actually is a great way to like have your cake and eat it too, like have evil Caitlin and not screw up your plot lines with like good Caitlin.
See, here's what I want. I want him to fall for evil Caitlin.
Yeah.
I want him and evil Caitlin to get together and have weird, good, evil babies.
I didn't really understand. They always wanted him to go with the characters that he didn't have chemistry with. Like, he couldn't have with Felicity, even though that really worked.
Yeah.
And they never really like committed to the idea of there being him and Caitlin, even though that also worked.
And potentially worked better than him and Iris.
Pretty much everything worked better than him and Iris.
True. Yeah. So that was exciting. Anything else out of Comic-Con? I saw there's like video and footage. They had the actual bat armor suit on display.
Which we won't do it right now. I think before we go to our question of the day, Sam actually sent us some footage.
Oh, great.
From the floor, just showing off some stuff. We'll wait on that for just a second. But
we got the Power Season 2 panel.
Oh, we did get the Power Season 2 panel. I think the biggest news out of that was the Tick creator.
Yeah, Ben Edlund, who created the Tick back in the 90s, and who also has written for shows such as Supernatural, is now joining Powers for Season 2.
Which sounded more exciting until Matt revealed that he'd also been working on Gotham last season.
He wrote the 2 best episodes of Gotham
There you go.
season.
There you go. So that's something. And also, what's the character's name? Super Shock?
Super Shock, who is the apparently the most powerful hero in the Powers universe, is going to make an appearance next year. He's someone who has a history with Walker.
Yeah.
And that they're just saying, you spend the whole first season trying to find the show. You know, we tried a lot of things, and I think most of them worked, which is not the truth. Guy who runs the show.
But nice try.
You tried a lot of stuff, and you know what? I will show up for season 2, but god damn it, figure it out. Focus.
Yeah, Matt has very mixed feelings about Powers. I don't know if they're mixed. They're not mixed.
No, they're not mixed, because it's a show that has so much wasted potential, and it's just like, it's such a bummer because I'll watch it and like 20% of every episode is great. And the rest of it just is garbage.
But Gotham is worse, right?
Gotham is worse overall.
Yeah, at least we can always take solace that Gotham is worse than pretty much everything.
You got my attention at like the beginning with like the setup, and then it just
the pilot wasn't an awful pilot.
Like ADD just kicked in. I was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah. Anyway, and by the way, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. Other news. Obviously, some of the bigger TV and movie panels are coming out this weekend. The Star Wars panel's out right now. I was just looking at updates at that earlier. Not a lot yet. But comic book news.
Yeah, comic book.
Comic book news. We've got a lot of things. We've got over at DC, we've got Batman and Robin Eternal.
Yes.
Which is last year we had Batman Eternal, which was a year-long 52 issue. Every week there's a new issue.
Wow. Batman
series. They're doing that again, but this time it's Batman and Robin Eternal. And a big thing that's going to spin out of that is something called the Robin War, where Damian Wayne, the once and current Robin, is facing off with the We Are Robin characters, which is basically like the premise is, what if Robin was a street gang?
Oh, so like the Jokers in Batman Beyond.
Yes, but Robins. And it's great. I just read the first issue came out last month.
It's actually good?
It's really good. It's a really solid premise, because it makes sense that if you got Batman running around, why wouldn't a bunch of kids going like, hey, we're Robin? We can be Robin. Let's just throw on the R's and start tearing shit up. And they do, and it's cool. So they're gonna meet the official Robin, Damian. And that'll be interesting. Meanwhile, Jeff Johns, we've been talking about him a lot. He's doing the Darkseid War, which Darkseid is going toe-to-toe with Anti-Monitor, which are the two biggest bads in DC Universe. And there's a lot of shakeups with the Justice League. It's happening before the Divergence thing. But Flash is becoming the new god of death, the Black Racer.
That's crazy.
Batman's taking over Metron's chair. And apparently he decides to use that to solve all crime in Gotham.
Good for him.
Which couldn't possibly go wrong, I'd imagine. Superman's becoming a mindless brute, and the only person who can stop him is Lex Luthor, obviously. And so it's there's a real go for broke, a sense of just go for brokenness at DC, in Darkseid War and at DC in general. And I'm really digging it.
I mean, it's a interesting difference between the two companies. DC is very much they're in the mindset of, you know what, forget connected universe. We're not even going to try. Just write a good story. Whatever you want to do, tell the story. Whereas Marvel, with after Secret Wars, they had their previews come out last week, and then they sort of clarified a bunch of it today on their panel. They announced all of the different books for all new, all different. Marvel, where they're resetting every book to number one. The new Avengers lineup is Sam Wilson, Captain America. Jane Foster, Thor. Kamala Khan, Miles Morales, Sam. I forget his last name. Nova. And Tony Stark. I think. It's some Iron Man, but like
cool lineup.
It is a cool lineup. It's interesting. It is Tony Stark. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure.
It's like I read they had the little preview on Free Comic Book Day, and they never. I went through and they never say his name.
Stark, but I think they've since revealed that it is. But they're being weirdly cagey about whatever.
They said weird. Today that they are going to be the Avengers without Tony Stark's money.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Which I think is good, because apparently now Spider-Man he's going around jet setting in a James Bond type story. So because of Park Industries, he's the new Tony Stark of that universe.
Crazy.
They didn't.
They also announced a new Chewbacca standalone comic.
Oh, everybody get excited!
Yeah. Well, it's from a Deadpool writer. It's gonna have some humor. I'm curious. I want to say, and also Maude would kill us if we didn't bring that up.
Yeah, right.
They just put out.
Oh
Lando.
man, we haven't talked about not that we would. They're making a Han Solo movie.
And apparently, just because the Star Wars Twitter account follows Aaron Paul, there's some people reporting that Aaron Paul must be playing young Han Solo.
They following him because he played Luke Skywalker in the table read.
Thank you. Okay, good. Because they only follow 365 people, and all 365 are involved in a Star Wars project in some way, shape, or form. Okay.
Yeah, and he was the table read that they did.
With Jason Reitman.
Yeah, with Jason Reitman.
That's really
fun. All right, here, let's throw to Sam live from the floor at Comic-Con.
Well, he's not live.
He's not live, but he was live.
He was live when he was alive.
Sam alive on the floor at Comic-Con.
Hey DJ Matt, miss you guys. I'm coming from the DC Comics booth at San Diego Comic-Con 2015, and I want to show you something real special. This behind me is the Batman armored suit from Batman v Superman coming out next year, 2016, as well as Wonder Woman's suit that just looks classy as hell. And last little bit of nerdy goodness, we have the real Ant-Man suit from the movie that's coming out next week. And guys, let's be honest, it's the best suit in the MCU. Look at those pecs. You can almost see his nipples. And that's it for me, guys. Throwing it back to you. I love you. I'll miss you. See you soon.
Thanks, Sam.
Live
from the floor of Comic-Con.
Yeah. So at the panel tomorrow, the WB Movies panel, they're going to show the new, they have to show the new Batman v Superman trailer. Some details came out about it today. It's going to be 2 minutes, 24 seconds long.
Cool.
And the movie, I think, has been rated as PG-13. So, shocker of the year. I'm excited to see the movie, and I'm excited to see the trailer when it drops tomorrow.
I'm hoping to see a trailer for Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it feels like a good time to at least do a tease.
How could they not? Like, we've already seen half the movie on Instagram.
But yeah, thanks Sam for showing us the Wonder Woman costume and the Batman costume, and a closer look at the Ant-Man costume, which is dope. It does. It does look. The A-Man costume does look cool.
And really quickly before we get into the question of the day, I just want to mention the Legend of Korra comic that's coming out,
which sounds amazing.
Amazing.
Well, are you talking about the creator? Because the creator's doing his own creator-owned thing, which sounds amazing. And then they're doing some Legend of Korra comics. I mean, graphic novels, which all of it sounds
I was just talking
really
about
cool.
the Korra graphic novels, but what's the thing that the creators are doing that's different?
We did a news story on it a little bit ago. He's doing his own original graphic novel. It's like a sci-fi series that takes place in a solar system where all the planets are populated by different aliens, and it follows this girl that wants to be a scientist, and it sounds amazing. It sounds really cool. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited for all that. So we asked you, the folks at home, regardless of what it was, what are the things that you are most excited about coming out of San Diego Comic-Con? And we got a lot of really, really cool answers. Adi Dahani says he asked, are there any new licensed properties in LEGO Dimensions? I don't know if they've announced any new properties since the last time they did a big announcement, but they showed a bunch of footage from the Doctor Who part of LEGO Dimensions, and I nearly cried. It's so cool.
It's I woke up in the middle of the night for like no reason at 3 a.m. and I just was watching it on my phone, and I was just losing it.
Yeah, just like Peter Capaldi voice acting, and it's him talking to like Superman and Wonder Woman. It's just so crazy.
It's Gandalf, Batman, and the Doctor.
Yeah, the Doctor hanging out with Superman sounds like the greatest thing ever.
It really, really is. It's like I barely ever buy video games anymore unless it's like something cheap or like on the PlayStation Store or whatever. But like I have to buy this. I have to.
I'm gonna go buy an Xbox One just so I can play it on the next gen system.
Yeah, there's nothing more exciting.
They showed a moment where Homer Simpson drops next to the Doctor.
Yeah, that's so stupidly crazy. Yes. Let's see what else we got. Some folks are mentioning Batman, Robin, Eternal, LEGO Dimensions, Doctor Who. So Out of the Script says that he's excited for DC TV, especially hoping that they announce Wally. Love Jay, but Wally is long overdue, especially after Young Justice.
Agreed, but I don't know how they'd incorporate him.
Yeah. Well, Wally, I think, would have to be another like alternate dimension kind of deal. I don't know if they could have Wally in the same universe without it feeling overcrowded.
In the comics, he's supposed to be Iris West's nephew. So he'd have to be a cousin. He'd have to be like Joe's nephew.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's been no mention of a sibling.
Right.
I don't know.
Does this mean that we're going to get a black Wally West?
I mean, in the comics, he's mixed. Right, currently, because of the whole New 52 reboot.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I think they should. I honestly, I was kind of hoping that somebody in the show would call the accelerator explosion the Big Bang, and we get Static Shock.
Yeah.
I personally think Static would make a great Flash sidekick.
I agree with you.
Because he's different power set. It would but lightning is still the same symbolism.
Different attitude.
Yeah, I just think it'd be cool.
I grew up on that animated show.
Yeah.
And I just like, the little kid in me would just get so excited for Static Shock.
DC needs to do something with that character in the movies and in TV or whatever, because it's a way for all the clamor for Miles Morales. DC beat them to the punch years ago.
Yeah.
And it'd be a great way to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I've said before on the show that I think instead of having when they did the New 52 relaunch, instead of having Cyborg on Justice League, it should have been Static.
Interesting.
I think that would have been a really interesting.
I think you mentioned that once a show, DJ.
I probably do. But
I like it though. I want to see that.
Yeah, but they didn't call it the Big Bang, even though it would have been a great opportunity to. It'd be interesting if there was a speedster, there was a sidekick. We don't say that about having. I guess Arsenal was kind of superfluous on Arrow.
He was entirely superfluous on Arrow until this season.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wasn't. I honestly think he wasn't superfluous until he became Arsenal, and then it kind of became like Arrow Light. So maybe it would be the same thing with Wally West. Maybe he should be an extra dimensional thing. I think now in the New 52, him being a speedster is in the future.
Yeah. Well, what I like most about him not being based with our characters is that it makes him an agent of chaos, even if he means well.
Yeah.
If he's just here out and about, it means that they have to calm him down and train him and make sure that he's, on board with Team Flash. Wally West being more of like a rebel and an agent of chaos makes for better storytelling.
But what you're describing is Bart Allen, who was Impulse and then became Kid Flash, and he's the grandkid from the future, which is the problem that you have, which is why New 52 Wally West is gone, because having Impulse Bart Allen made a lot of sense when Wally West was Flash, and Barry Allen was gone.
Yeah,
having Barry Allen be Flash, their two Kid Flashes are too similar.
Okay.
No.
Another tweet we got here from Joe at Interestine. I know this isn't comic book, but it is out of Comic-Con. He said the things he's most excited about is Colin Trevorrow directing Star Wars Episode 9.
Yes, that is a rumor that is spreading. Which, by the way, I just saw Jurassic World. It's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job for him. I'm glad it's making so much money for him.
Yeah. It's doing incredibly well. It's not the best movie in that franchise, and I think that he's capable of directing a better movie.
Yeah.
He's never directed anything on this scale before. I think that his Star Wars could be a lot of fun. He definitely is the least interesting of the three main series directors that have been announced, compared to J.J. Abrams or Rian Johnson. But it's a compelling idea.
He's just coming off of Jurassic World.
He's coming off of Jurassic World, and then there are rumors spreading that he is about to be announced as the director of Episode 9.
So, I mean, I think it makes sense. Like, if you one of the things that Jurassic World did the best was the ability to recapture as much as it could the feeling of the first one. He really he transferred over the original feel from the 90s into today, and it worked. They worked together, and that's what with the prequel trilogy was missing, and what people are so worried about with these new ones. So I think that it makes sense to go to somebody who has proven that he can handle that specific skill.
Yeah.
No.
He is someone I saw online compared him to Richard Marquand, who directed Return of the Jedi. And honestly, just thinking about the vibe of Return of the Jedi and the vibe of Jurassic World, I feel like he could deliver a very Return of the Jedi kind of movie, for better or worse.
Yes.
Which maybe is the right way to end out that trilogy.
I don't know. Obviously, it depends on the two other movies that one hasn't even started production and one we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
It's true.
We don't even know if we're going to be happy at the end of the year.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I feel like people will treat that movie like it is the second coming, because it will not be as bad as the prequels, and that alone will, to people, herald like...
You think it has a low standard?
I can guarantee you at least one person will come up to me and like, that was the greatest movie ever made. No, it's
the greatest movie ever made.
I guarantee you, somebody will tell us that it is the greatest movie ever made.
Someone online, no one in person.
I disagree with you. I think somebody will try to convince us, just because I like the Star Wars prequels, if for no other reason that it made the Star Wars fan base a lot more complex. Instead of just universally being like, Star Wars is the greatest thing of all time.
And it's like, there's a lot of Star Wars has shades
of what people will accept and won't accept. And I think the fact that this movie will, nothing else, be competent, will, for that fan base, blow so many minds that people will be convinced that it's like, this is the greatest movie of the next century, of the 21st century.
Hey, man.
It won't be.
There were some people who said that about Pacific Rim. I don't get that at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, people are head over heels for that movie.
Yeah, I did not. I got very tired of that movie about 2/3 of the way through.
I really, really like about 30% of that movie.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. For all the problems Godzilla had, I feel like it handled that material better.
I loved the new Godzilla. The further I get from it, the lower it ranks among my favorite movies. But I appreciated it because it had a specific take, and it committed to it completely. And it may not have been what we wanted, but I appreciated the commitment to that vision. Yeah. Anyway, we're running low on
time. I've been keeping up with the big Star Wars panel. Hall H has been going on, and I've been keeping up with it. Nothing so far, at least here, has been released. They brought out a live action version of one of the aliens, kind of showing their commitment to practical effects, which I think is great. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. BB-8 is awesome.
Yeah. BB-8's dope.
So I'm amped about that.
That one was just shocking when they said that's a real thing. Like, you look at how it moves, you're like, that's really cool. It has to be CGI.
Yeah, no, and it's real. Great on you. Good job. Yeah, so they brought up that, and it seems like the fans are really amped about what's going on there. It seems like a real love-in. Like, the movie comes out in December. There's probably not much more that they'll, maybe at the end of this panel, a half hour from now, people will probably be losing their minds. But
so I have some news from the iZombie panel, which is going on right now. So Diane Ruggiero came out and said, we are sticking just to zombies. There will not be any weird terriers or any other creatures in this universe.
Which, when we had Raul on, he kind of implied that as well, which is kind of a bummer, but we get it.
Yeah, Raul Coley, who's a friend of the show. We also have, she describes Clive as the Lois Lane of the iZombie universe.
The lowest lane? Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah.
It's like the lowest lane?
The lowest lane. No, the lowest lane of the universe. But yeah, I love that show. That's kind of like the biggest news coming out of it right now.
Yeah. The big for TV shows that we love, Arrow, Flash, stuff like that. Like, that's going to be tomorrow. Their big panels tomorrow. At the end of the day, big Hall HDC panel for Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman, which I assume some big stuff's going to come out.
I'd bet anything they're going to trot out the entire Justice League, including people that we have not heard
Green
about
Lantern,
yet.
Yeah. I think of the traditional 7 that we expect them to be using, the only people that have not been cast is Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So which we awesome. I'm a huge fan of that universe, and so I look forward to that.
Super. DJ, you got a pull list for this week?
I do have a pull list that I didn't bring out with me.
Oh, no.
Well, but I do know it.
You know it from heart.
Yes, I do know it. It's a kind of a lighter week next week as far as the pull list goes. We've got Black Canary #2, which is we were talking about with Divergence. They're just letting it go crazy, and Black Canary's frontlining a punk band that's dealing with what looks to be a supernatural threat. So it's really getting crazy. So I definitely recommend checking out Black Canary. Also at DC, Justice League #42, which is continuing that Dark Side war plot line with all that crazy stuff. Over at Marvel, they're still doing the Secret War stuff, but I think the things that stand out is it looks like Matt Fraction's finally ending his Hawkeye run. We've got what looks to be his last issue of Hawkeye, which has been delayed. And then also the Silver Surfer run with iZombie artist Mike Allred is on it, and that's apparently been great. And it's doing a lot of Marvel titles, because everything's getting rebooted, are doing their last days of whatever, and this is the last days of Silver Surfer.
Cool.
And so those are the books I'd recommend checking out.
There's an Ant-Man annual coming out next week, which is basically, I think, going to be like, here's the setup for the movie, or like, here's what you can look forward to.
Exactly, which, by the way, next week we're going to be reviewing the Ant-Man movie.
We're going to be reviewing Ant-Man next week on the show, so be sure to tune in live Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time next week. Also, I'm just going to throw this out there. Archie #1. Mark Waid.
Fiona Staples is
Fiona
the artist.
Staples, artist of Saga.
Yeah.
I read the first couple of pages online, and they're awesome. The reviews are glowing. And you might want to bone up on your Archie, because the CW just announced that they are greenlighting a new series based on the Archie universe called Riverdale.
Which they were talking about a little bit ago, which
For
apparently
Fox.
they're inspired. Then, when they were talking about it, then the inspiration was Twin Peaks.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, which is very crazy. They've been experimenting a lot over Archie with like Afterlife of Archie with zombies and Predator versus Archie and stuff like that. So I'm down.
Yeah, I'm curious. Bring it on.
Yeah.
So, guys, that's going to be the show for today. Zach, thank you so much for joining us,
thanks,
man.
man.
Thank you for having
you.
me. This was a blast.
Yeah. So, where can the people find you online?
You can follow me on Twitter at that Zach Wilson, ThatZachWilson.
And you can hear us talking about The Strain starting on Monday. The show premieres Sunday night. We're going to be taping a podcast Monday evening.
At 9 p.m. We'll be in the studio.
Is there anything else that you're working on?
Well, also on Monday, Dominion. We're going to be talking about the Angel War show. We already have the showrunner coming in a few weeks. So
Sweet.
If you're a fan of that show, come check it out.
All right. Thank you so much. Folks, thank you for everything. We'll see you next week. #SH Roundup. DJ, anything else you want to say?
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.